I was being nice in this video. I got workouts that I'm sure you'll have to take a nap before it's over. I was being nice because I don't want to kill the people.
Yeah.
And that's one of my friends. My friend said, "Are you trying to kill people? Are you really trying to kill people? Do you realize what you just did?" And I said, "No, I don't." So I wanted to have it to you because I said, "You're fit. This guy's fit. He runs a 6-minute mile. He's ready for this,
I wasn't ready for it. This is episode number 28 of the Expert Table Tennis Podcast. My name is Ben Larcombe, and my guest on the show today, as I'm sure you've already guessed, is Brian Pace. Now, Brian has just released this new incredible table tennis fitness training DVD, and that's what we were talking about in that intro. It's really high intensity, but what I like about it the most is that it uses shadow training or shadow play to give you that kind of cardio table tennis specific fitness training, and that's something that I think is just a real brilliant idea. It's working on improving the type of fitness that's actually going to help you play better table tennis. So I talked to Brian all about the importance of fitness for table tennis. We get into why he likes shadow training so much, and I have to agree with him that shadow training is a brilliant tool. And we hear a bit more about Brian's story as well. Really brilliant interview, one of the best I've done. I'm sure you're going to enjoy it. Before we get into that, I'd just like to say a huge thank you to our sponsors for this episode, TT Edge. TT Edge are an online coaching service that offer loads of brilliant videos for you to watch, and also the option of getting one-to-one feedback and advice from, really top quality coaches like Brett Clark. I'll talk more about TT Edge at the end of the show, but for now, let's get straight into the interview. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoy it. My guest on the show today is Brian Pace from Dynamic Table Tennis. Hi, Brian.
Hey, how you doing, Ben?
Yeah, doing well. I'm absolutely exhausted after just doing your 30-minute training video that you sent me. That is an absolute killer.
I was, we're Facebook friends, so I see you running 5Ks all the time. And I think I saw like 19 minutes, which is that's like 6-minute miles. And I said, Ben is going to finish this thing. So I'm waiting for somebody that can actually finish it. I've sent it to players better than me. I've sent it to players that are more fit, that's not as good as me, and nobody's been able to finish it yet. So I'm looking for that person that can go start to finish without feeling like their arm is going to fall off.
Yeah, I definitely felt like my arm was going to fall off. Like I was just doing it in my living room, so it's not ideal. I think the people in the flat downstairs must have been like wondering what on earth was going on above them. But it was just so exhausting. The format is kind of like 4 minutes on and 1 minute off, isn't it?
Right.
You incorporate breaks into it, but it's those 4 minutes are just absolutely knackering.
Yeah, when I first started doing it by myself, I wouldn't take any breaks until I would have one of my students do it with me, and he said, "Look, I cannot. We've been going 8 minutes straight. Like you're just hitting a punching bag for 8 minutes. Like." And then I started saying, "Okay, if I'm going to make this a workout, it has to be formatted in a way to where the person can see that 1 minute break coming." And yeah. I guess that was the most important thing, is to break it up to where they can see it was a hard workout, but they can enjoy that 1 minute off,
Yeah. So for those that don't know what we're talking about, this is your new DVD training video. It's called Shadow Training for Table Tennis Loop Fundamentals, isn't it?
Correct. Yeah. I still feel like the loop is the trump card of table tennis, because you can loop everything. You can loop a loop, you can loop a smash, you can loop a block, you can loop a chop, you can loop a flip. You can loop anything. So if you can develop the loop fundamentals, then the way that you train and the way that you compete will be elevated. So I know that I wanted to put that one out first, because I created 8 different workouts, but I wanted to have the loop one really be the lead out. I really wanted that one to be the lead out workout, because everybody that comes to me that asks for questions, is 90% of the questions are around the loop and the serve return. It's hard to make a workout for serve return, but it's much easier to make, a workout for the loop, because when you look at the loop, as you saw from the video, it's broken down into, like, you can loop using consistency, you can loop changing the speed, you can loop changing your body position, and then you can loop using your footwork. So you really have 4 different ways that you incorporate the loop, and I wanted that to encompass the video.
Yeah, and you managed to get so much into that video. It wasn't just kind of like beasting me for 30 minutes, but there was technical stuff put in there, there was tactical stuff, there was really good combinations of using different patterns and changing the placement. There was all sorts. It was really, really brilliant. I was really impressed by how well put together that was, and the progression through the whole thing. I think it's clear that you've put a lot of work into thinking about the structure and how best to put it all together.
Yeah, when I started to say, how can I take away the ball and have the person start to think more? Because one of the things that all table tennis players are guilty of is, why do I play that same shot to the same spot all the time? And it's because you have the ball there. But without the ball, there's a whole section where we're looping one ball cross court, we're looping one ball down the line, and then you're incorporating footwork, because in the game, that's how it's going to happen. So I wanted that natural progression to happen, to where this is how you develop the technique, and this is how you slowly elevate your thought process in addition to getting a great workout, because most people have a problem changing their mindset once the ball is there. But if this is a 30-minute workout and the ball is not there, I get a chance to work on really where's my left arm at? Like how am I breathing? Because I'm going to be working out 4 minutes straight without stopping. You get a chance to isolate, almost every different technique. And for every 1 minute exercise, I give you a little bit of a theme to think about. So in that 1 minute, you're focusing on that aspect, and then as it keeps progressing, I just keep giving you bullet points of what you have to focus on every single exercise.
Yeah. I'm wondering if you've read the book, The Talent Code by Daniel Coyle. Have you read that one?
I haven't.
Okay, because what's in that book, which, it's basically exactly what you just said there. He goes around to all of these different talent hotspots around the world, kind of clubs that produce loads of world-class performers, just way more than they should. He went out to this tennis club called Spartak Moscow over in Russia, and they just produced like so many female women top tennis players.
Wow.
And the coaches there have this kind of saying where they say that the ball is the distraction, and they get them to do shadow play over and over, and they say that thinking about the ball is going to inhibit the ability to develop a really strong technique. And they have this thing called, well, they call shadow play imitatsiya in Russian. That's like the word they use for it. And what you've said there is basically exactly what he said about this club, like that idea that if you can get rid of the ball, then you're really able to focus on what's important. You can add the ball in later.
Right. What I found, most of these discoveries came to me when I really started coaching. As a player, I was in a lucky position, because the very first day I walked in to learn table tennis, my coach at the time was number 3 in the country. So I actually never learned a bad technique. And I learned world-class Olympic level techniques right from the door. So I never really had a curve of where I went through a lot of different coaches. I started out with a really high level coach, but as I started to coach myself, after the point would be over, my student would make the perfect stroke. They would emulate me perfectly. And then I said, when the ball comes, just do that. Do that, and I realized that they couldn't. So what I started doing is I would have them do multi-ball, to where, okay, hit one ball and then make a shadow stroke without the ball. And then I found that the one without the ball, they were doing it perfectly. So when I'm finding that people are distracted by the ball, I do multi-ball with them. I feed them one ball. I let them swing without the ball. I feed them one ball and let them swing without the ball until they're doing it exactly the same as the stroke without the ball. So, I didn't read the book, but, once you start to deal with students, all of these epiphanies start to come about. And then you got to realize, how do I troubleshoot this? And how do I get them to see what I see? Because if I say you're not turning your waist because you want to get to the ball fast, they may not see it until they start to see the one without the stroke is so much more carefree and relaxed that I'm starting to realize I have a problem. And Brian doing this exercise helps me come closer to doing it the right way. So for me, it was just troubleshooting. How can I get that person to see it? One other thing I did also is I would turn the lights off in the gym. And I would say, close your eyes and make your stroke as slow as you can until you can actually feel the muscles, until you start to sweat. I mean, and this may be 8 to 10 minutes of them just swinging slow. Then I would turn the lights on. Okay, now let's go back and play it fast. And then they would have a little bit more awareness over what they were doing, because the disconnect is I'm saying something to them and they can't say something to their muscles yet. So it can be really distracting if I keep saying something and they can't communicate with their muscles. So my job is to teach them how to connect with finessing their muscles into changing as soon as they need to change. Because normally it's the learning curve to changing something, but the faster you make those neurons connect to what you're thinking, the faster that turnover happens,
Yeah. That's incredible. I love those ideas. Like turning off the lights is something that I've never heard before, because it's just, that's just going to let you feel what's going on. And then the idea of doing one with the ball, one without the ball is such a good way to put it together. Because sometimes, I coach people and they can do it perfectly when there's no ball. They can shadow the shot perfectly, but then that ball comes and it all disappears. So you're just bringing those two together.
Right.
Yeah, that's a brilliant idea. You mentioned there about your own career and how you started off with a really good coach. Now, I know you've actually got quite an interesting story. A lot of my guests actually start playing later, and then I don't know why, but it seems like a lot of the people that are active, really passionate about table tennis often did seem to start later. I know you started later and then you still managed to reach a really high level. So it'd be great to hear, just briefly about your own career as a junior and then what you went on to accomplish as a senior.
Sure. I was in a really unique position that, Butterfly USA is actually in my hometown. And that's how I got started. One day the coaches came to the school and they did a pep rally, and they did an exhibition. And I asked the coach, can I have one of those yellow balls? And then he gave me a yellow ball, and I went home and got in front of the TV, and I told my family, I said, okay, I'm going to be a professional table tennis player. And my brother was like, get your ass out of the way of the TV. Like, I don't care what you're going to be. But what happened is within 2 years, I was the number 2 junior under 16 boys. So to go from 0 to number 2 under 16 boys, the Olympic Training Center came calling. And they said, we don't know who he is, but the first question they asked my mom is he American? Because my middle name is Suleiman, which is African. Don't know why my dad did it, but they were thinking I came from like an African country, and
okay, so you came out of nowhere, so they thought maybe you just transferred in and you'd played for years somewhere else.
Correct. So then when they, I said, no, I'm American. And my coach from Butterfly said, hey, he's American. We started him in this program. I was invited to move to Colorado to be in the Olympic Training Center program. And this is at the time when U.S. Olympians were already training there. So you training with the top 16 players in the country. You have your own personal sports therapy session on Tuesday. You got a group session on Friday. You got organized training in the morning and at night. And in between, you go to public school. So we didn't have private school. We left the campus and went to a private school. And I did that for 3 years until I graduated. And then I went on to go to a table tennis college in Augusta, Georgia. And that's when, just it elevated my level even more, because now I was playing with adults and I was playing on the national circuit, because now I was, 19 and I would really improved a lot. And then basically played maybe 6 or 8 years just on the national circuit. And then I moved to Romania to play in, the European League. So I did that for 3 years.
Yeah. What I find really interesting there is, I mean, I'm assuming that from a young age you were always just a natural athlete. I'm not wrong to think that, am I?
Yeah, listen, I did everything. Listen, let me go back. When I told my family I was going to be a professional table tennis player, my mom grabbed me. She took me into my room. She opened the closet, and it was football gear, baseball gear, soccer gear, swimming gear, every gear possible. And she said, when you finish with that little yellow ball, where are you going to put it? So for me, it was, I did sports all year long, but it was something about table tennis. And what I realized now that I identify with is, if you play football or soccer or baseball or even team gymnastics, your result is a part of a system. Meaning, if you have an incredible day playing football and the quarterback has a terrible day, then you lose. Or if you had an awful day and the rest of the team did well, the team did well even though you did awful. And what I identify with table tennis is, nobody can control my result but me. That was the number one thing I identify with. Here's a sport that if I do well, then I do well. And I did Taekwondo. I was really good at Taekwondo. My mom said, "You're too vicious. You are too animalistic. You cannot do this for your career." So my mom took me out of Taekwondo just because, from a violent standpoint, I was too good at it.
You were beating up all the other kids.
Yeah, listen, the parents were coming to my mom. They said, "Look, the way your son kicked my son and made my son fold up, that ain't normal." So then when I found table tennis, I told my mom, "This is as violent as I can be, but I'm hitting this little celluloid ball and it's going across the table." And on that, she was like, "Great. Okay, go. Just, you won't have any resistance from me if this is what you want to do." So it was kind of that slow evolution of, I'm a great athlete, but which one of these sports really spoke to me,
So when you started table tennis, did the other sports pretty much just go out the window?
My football coach didn't give up for 3 years. So I started when I was 13. And until I got about 17, he didn't give up. He told my mom, he said, "Your son will go into the National Football League. He will be in the NFL. He will get a free scholarship to any college he wants to go to, and he will be a professional football player. Just keep him on this track." And then my mom said, "Look, my son just came from Miami. He flew by himself. He traveled on his own. And then afterwards, he went to Japan. How can you convince him to play football in his local city when he's traveling the world?" And that's really what did it. My friends would say, "Hey, I did a football camp this summer." How far was it away from the house? 40 miles. Great. Because I was in Japan. I was speaking Japanese. So that introduction to world sports, I understood that table tennis was multicultural. Football is not multicultural. It's black. Track and field and basketball, those are black sports. No problem with it, but it didn't really speak to me. But when I started playing table tennis, I go to a tournament, it'd be a Swedish guy, 6'2", playing a Chinese man that was, that looked like Bruce Lee. And I said, I love this.
Yeah. Before we go back to talking about the video, I've just got one more question,
Sure.
which, it'd be interesting to hear your answer. But what are your thoughts on talent for table tennis? Are people born with an innate talent that they're going to be able to become really good at table tennis? Do some people not have this talent, and no matter how hard they train or the work put in, like, they're never going to be a good player? Like, what do you think?
That's a good question. I was in a program with 100 kids, and it produced me. The program, the guy that was in charge of the program said, "We are looking for Olympic-bound athletes. We are going to pressure cooker this group until we find that diamond in the rough." And that was my introduction to saying, okay, mentally and emotionally, I am not as strong as my cousin that is 4 years younger than me. I had a cousin that was 4 years younger than me that played. If he decided he wanted to beat everybody that day, he could beat everybody that day. Or if he was mad, he could beat everybody that day. So from a mental and emotional standpoint, I can identify with a person that could dig deeper than me mentally and emotionally. The problem with that is there's a physical limitation to it because my cousin was skinny. Like he was skinny like a marathoner and I was muscular. So I realized that at some point when my technique exceeded his mental and emotional capacity, that was the dividing line. So the mental and emotional part is what will separate everybody. The physical talent, if you train hard enough, everybody's going to get to a certain level, you know, but when you start to say, I want to win more, that's what separates people, you know, because I have a cycling friend of mine. You might have saw his picture yesterday on Facebook. He's a table tennis player also. I got him into cycling. When we used to train, if he banged his finger on the table, he'd kick my ass for like the next 30 minutes. And I would say, what was that? Like something happened and you hit your hand and then I lost 4 matches in a row. That was something that was mental and emotional. Under normal circumstances, he never beats me. But in that situation, when he's elevated by pain, he just performs better. But I also realize those are situational events. He's not going to play like that all the time. It's just situational. So everybody gets to a certain physical talent. And then whoever is the person that's the most mentally sharp, that's the person that just does the best, you know. And I've had a chance to see it at a low level with 100 kids, and then it producing me, and then I'll go into the Olympic Training Center program of kids to where you can see this kid doesn't have it. Yeah. And he didn't have it mentally and emotionally. Like he does not want it as bad. And then you go to the next level and then you go to collegiate and you realize that when this player faces resistance, when that other person pushes back because they want to win, that person crumbles. And then even when I went to Europe, there was people on the team that I felt was physically more talented than me. This guy's faster than me. But somehow I would beat that person 8 out of 10 times. So it's like it really fluctuates, but the determining factor for me is the mental and emotional part, you know, and that's really where people really don't train as much. They'll train the forehand loop. They'll train the backhand and footwork and serve return. But how many people train what I call the walkthrough process? And I'll be real quick with this. One of my coaches before the tournament said, have you thought about what's going to happen this weekend? I have no idea what you're talking about. And he said, I want you to go in your room for the next hour. I want you to think about getting on the bus taking you to the airport taking you to the city you're competing in, getting a taxi, getting to the hotel, what you're going to eat, what side of the bed you're going to sleep on, what time you're going to wake up, eat breakfast, get to the venue, train, find out who you have to play, look at the tables, check the flooring, check the light. If you can train that, it will be very hard for you to have a bad competition. And that was kind of the light switch on for me, saying that this tournament doesn't just happen when I'm training. It's happening in my head before I even get there, you know?
Okay, so you were doing mental preparation and visualization and those kind of things right from the get-go.
Yeah, listen, absolutely. We had this thing to where we would say the performance has already happened. We just showing up. That's it. Hey, listen, I've done everything. I'm going to show up, and what's in my head is going to happen. And a little small quick story. Sean O'Neal, 5-time U.S. champion, 2-time Olympian. He's one of my mentors. And when I got to the Olympic Training Center, he took me on a run. There's a run where you run 4 miles and then you run up a dump. And this is at, 5,000 feet altitude in Colorado. So he took me on a 10-mile run to let me know you are not working hard enough. While you're out here running, you need to be visualizing what your mental state is when you're in competition. And he took me on that run, and then I threw up, And then I didn't go to school for 3 days because I had a fever. That's how much he turned me inside out. But he was doing me a favor at 16 to say, you are physically talented on the level that we've never seen in the US, but mentally and emotionally, you're at zero. Zero's not bad. It's just you haven't developed it yet. You actually need to develop that part of your performance. And it took me about 4 years to actually be able to stand in front of him and say to myself, I have trained hard enough to beat you. And it happened like 4 years later. But every other time before that, I couldn't look him in the eyes because I knew I don't know how to train that hard. I haven't pushed myself to that level to where I'll be that upset with myself if I don't perform correctly. And it took 4 years for me to mentally and emotionally stand in front of him and say, I'm sorry, Sean, but the performance is already taken care of. I'm just showing up.
Yeah, like you got to a point where you knew that you'd done enough to be able to beat him, and yeah, you just felt it.
Right, and after he beat me, just before he shook my hand, he winked his eye at me. He says, "Now you got it, because you were halfway arrogant in the performance because you knew you were ready. No other time did you ever look at me that way." He said, "I knew it." Okay, he's looking at me now like he knows he's ready. You know.
Cool stuff. Very interesting. Right. Well, let's get back to talking about the video. Now, I guess there's a couple of things in here. We've got the kind of shadow play aspect, which we've touched on briefly. The other thing is just the whole idea of fitness for table tennis, and, you know, how important is that, and are people training it enough? Now, I know that you mentioned that you do a lot of cycling, don't you? Which is obviously aerobic fitness is what that's all about. So
right,
how are you finding the cycling is kind of impacting on your table tennis? Because as we said, I really struggled with this training video, despite the fact that I'm, you know, doing a lot of running at the moment. So aerobically I'm pretty fit, but it does seem like there's a difference between that kind of steady one pace type thing and table tennis, which, as you say, is very explosive, powerful. You need to be quite big and strong.
Right. Well, let me just kind of give you a history into my cycling. Again, when I got to Olympic Training Center, the coach, our cross training coach, said you have a choice. You can either choose running as your cross training, or you can choose cycling as your cross training. So at 16, I said, okay, I'm going to choose cycling because I don't like to run. I just had too much muscle, and I'd rather cycle. So over the years, I had always used cycling as my cross training. And what I found is the cycling increased my overall endurance. But I found in high level competitions like the national championships or the Olympic trials, I was just as tired at the same time as everybody else. So I said,
even though you were fitter than them,
even though I was more fit, I said, I've created better fitness. What's going to happen when I create table tennis based fitness? And what happened is that summer I had trained in Japan, played the US Open, and when the US Open was over, I was physically shattered. And I said, how? I just competed for 4 days hard. I'm shattered. So from August until December, I did this workout about 4 times a week. But the video that you tried was the abridged version. I did the 55-minute workout where, you know, imagine there's 8 minutes straight and then 2 minutes off. That's the one that I originally had created. So I did this workout 3 times a week for 4 months. And when I went to the national championships, I made it to the quarterfinals, which was the best result at that time. And I was physically not tired when the tournament was over. So I said, okay, it's table tennis based fitness training. It's not go out and run. Don't go out and do squat jumps. Don't go out and do sprints. They can help, but it won't keep your arm from doing a perfect technique when you're playing the last match of the day and you've been playing the tournament all day. But if you've been doing straight forehand loop strokes as a cardio workout, that will have a huge impact on your performance. And you start to understand what table tennis fatigue looks like.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what this video is completely about, isn't it? This video, even though it's, it's shadow training, so you're getting the kind of the training, the technique benefits. I would say that, the majority of what you're getting from this video is table tennis specific fitness training, getting used to the type of fatigue that you have. I mean, I was right now. And one thing we'll talk about later is you're talking about kind of the snap on the forehand and using your forearm,
Right.
which I can normally do fine, and I can do it fine right now. But when you were saying in that video to like spend a minute doing that forehand snap, like my shoulder was in agony. Like it just felt like completely wrong. I could feel that my technique had completely gone out the window because I was fatigued, and that's due to the fact that my table tennis fitness is not good enough, even if my general cardio is strong.
Right. One of the things that, I've done this over the years with plenty of people, and it was like, why is it we're at the 30-minute mark and your technique has not broken down yet? Because you'll hear me say in the video, look, my technique hasn't broken down. It's still pristine. It's still as perfect a movement as it was when I started. It's just because how many strokes do you have in the bank before you get fatigued? Most people, they train as 3 to 5 rallies. Well, this is 30 minutes straight. So you get a chance to go so far beyond worrying about the ball and looking at the technique that you get a chance to feel where your arm is fatigued at. The reason that you can't look at your fatigue in the tournament is because the score is 7-7 in the 5th game, and you don't have time to look at it because you're trying to win. So this video says, okay, we don't have to worry about winning, but we can worry about making your technique much more pristine so that when you get to that moment, the technique doesn't break down. If you're tired and you're doing this exercise, you are tired in training and especially in the tournament because everybody tries 20% harder in the tournament. And I just started to realize over time, I would go back and look at myself in the tournament. And I said, I'm attacking every ball that's deep at 9-all in the 5th game. And I know the other guy can't do that because he's tired. And that's really what set it apart for me. And when I started to have other people try to work out, and then they say, hey, can you give me that workout? Like, let me do it like 5 more times just so I can see if I can even finish it, And then that's when it started to really have an impact. And then I ended up writing like 9-all. But that one was really important because everybody idolizes the loop. They really want to have a good loop. And I said, if I cover every possible way you can do the loop, every way you can put the ball, how you can change your body position, how you can get footwork involved, then it changes the way your performance is. Because if you do this, you will undoubtedly do it in a tournament.
Yeah. Now, my question to you now is who is this video aimed at? Because as I was doing it, that was one of the things that was going through my head. I'm thinking about questions for the interview later. I was thinking, who are you aiming this video at?
I initially had that's a tough question. Really, I want to point the video towards people that want to improve their technical awareness. Okay, I've been worrying about getting the ball back when I'm playing with the ball. This video teaches me how to do the technique without the reward of trying to see myself hit the ball on the table, which is that's what's distracting is I'm trying to do it correct and I'm trying to hit it on the table. No, I want you to do it correct. And then I want you to increase your awareness of the technique. And then the byproduct is that you eventually learn how to finish this video. I want you to be a more fitter table tennis player using table tennis fit. So most people say, I want to go run. No, this is the workout you need to do. If you want to have a huge impact on your performance, then I'm aiming this to people of all levels because before I put it out, I wanted to make sure that every person would see a benefit. The main thing that most of the people were discouraged with is that I can't finish this thing. I can go run for 30 minutes, but I cannot do this for 30 minutes. And I play 4 times a week. How can I play 4 times a week, but I cannot finish this workout? So that's the thing. I wanted to set the bar so high, and I wanted them to see, okay, I'm having to take breaks, and Brian has not taken one break. He hasn't stopped moving for the whole entirety of the video. So it can be done, So that's really who I wanted to find the video to be a benefit to them. Really it'll cross all platforms, because I've had a world-class guy do 6 minutes. And he said, I can't, I'm not even going to attempt to do 30 minutes,
Yeah, and it's brilliant because I mean, this video, the training program is 30 minutes long. There's no cuts, there's no edits. It's like you're there doing it with right in front of us for the whole 30 minutes. You're absolutely dripping in sweat. Like I just think that's really great motivation that you can, because I was there thinking, God, this is hard. But then it's not like, it's not like you do one drill, film it, have a break, then do the other one, and you look fresh and everyone. Like by the end of it, you're absolutely wet
myself, right? And that was the thing I told my friend. I said, this video is going to be one take, because normally when I do a video, a couple of my friends will come and they'll hit record and stop, and okay, let's do another take. But this was, I got one camera from the front, one camera from the side. I'm going to start them at the same time, and I'm not stopping. They're going to see that it's me in every clip, and you slowly see the shirt sweat out all the way down to the bottom, where at the end you can see I'm soft stepping because there's so much sweat on the floor. I'm afraid that I'm going to slip. So I wanted the person to see that this wasn't some studio editing. He just did the video in front of me directly. It wasn't any cuts or anything. So I wanted that person to get the encouragement that, this wasn't a workout that was fake. It's a workout that you're there every single time,
Yeah, and then I guess my follow-up from that is, how important is fitness in terms of at different levels of table tennis ability? So would you say that fitness is really important for beginners? Is it more important the better you become? What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's important across all levels, because I have beginner students that have been playing for 9 months doing this workout, and then I have elite athletes that I work with that are doing this workout. And all of my elite athletes, they all initially kind of shunned it. They're like, I don't need to do no cardio workout. And I said, do 10 minutes and prove to me that you can actually finish 10 minutes. Nobody has been able to do 10 minutes without the realization that I'm really exhausted. I'm tired in a way that I can only do this if I'm playing table. I can only get this tired if I'm playing table tennis. So I wanted to be sure that everybody could benefit to it, because all the products I put out, I'm not aiming towards just the table tennis player. I'm looking for the recreational ping pong player, or the person that's saying, I'm playing my national championships. I want to appeal to the world of table tennis, not the world of elite players or the world of beginner players. I just want, if that person is saying, I'm weak, physically I'm weak, or I just don't understand my technique. And you're hearing the end of the video, I said, this is a great warm-up. Okay, instead of going around and jogging for 5 minutes, do one of these sets for 5 minutes. You'll warm yourself up, you'll get the cardio fitness, and you improve your technique also. So it's like, this is something that can be done where you can slowly incorporate it, inside of your training program. Nobody's at the club. When you get there, do this for 10 minutes. After the training is over, you do it another 10 minutes. And that's how I slowly build up. I went from 0 to being able to do 55 minutes straight by doing 15 minutes before training, and then doing 15 minutes afterwards. So, and then one day I said, I'm just going to walk in and I'm going to do the whole 55-minute workout. So I think that it doesn't have an appeal to a certain group. It's just, if you're trying to get better in table tennis, this will help improve your fitness and how you interpret your shot. And the more it's done without the ball, the better you'll do it with the ball.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I can't really get over how great this is, because it incorporates so many different things. As you say, it's not like some videos you start watching them and you think this is kind of below my level. Like, I'm not going to be able to get anything from this. Whereas I don't know, it just got so much good stuff in it. You're kind of constantly giving people little tips about technique. There's even things in there about tactics. So, I mean, you talk about why it's a good idea to do a backhand cross court, a backhand down the line, so that then you're able to open up and play a forehand. It's just, and then the whole workout side of it, like, I bet there are players in the top 100 in the world that wouldn't be able to complete this workout because it's that physically challenging.
I've given it to 3 that are my friends. I will not reveal their names because they will be pretty upset to say, yeah, I couldn't finish the workout. Thanks for the compliment. I was paranoid when I got to a point to where it was time for me to do this video, because when I first created it, and I told one of my friends about it, he said, you're going to be like one of these, like the insanity guy. And it kind of initially, I was a little nervous, and I said, like, I don't want you to see it like that. I want you to see it as a table tennis, workout, and then maybe 4 months later, I let him try it. And he said, man, this was incredible. He was like, I didn't understand what you were saying the first time you said it, but now I get it. Like, this is going to be a seller on a level that you don't understand, because they'll realize that they're not as fit as they thought they were,
Yeah, I completely agree. I think I'm going to put this out there and say that I think this is going to do really well, and there's going to be a lot of people talking about this because it's a brilliant way to train your fitness. It's great for people that are still grooving like the basic strokes, because it just gives them loads of opportunities to do that. It's got all the patterns that you might have to play. It's got the footwork in there. I really like that idea of, as you said, using it as a warm-up, like before you have a match or before you start a training session, because we still, you might look at like a national team training or whatever, and they're still doing warm-ups that are jogging, hill flicks, high knees. Like, when in a table tennis match, you kind of bringing your heels up to do hill flicks or anything like that. Like, it's not specific. And if you look at any of the sports science research, it says that, your warm-up needs to be as close as possible to what you're actually going to be doing. So doing something like this as a warm-up, I think, that's something where table tennis practice and coaching practice is really lagging behind the science. And I think if people start looking at this video, using stuff like this as a warm-up, that's going to be like a really big step forward.
Yeah, I agree. When I really accepted this and I started doing it before tournaments, people would look at me funny. I was saying, look, like, I'm doing the technique that I'm going to do in the tournament. My brain does not know that the ball is not there. I was comfortable with coming to the tournament and then for 10 minutes before the tournament, sweating out a shirt, doing table tennis technique. And the weirdest thing I got was the way people looked at me. Even other coaches in the club would say, that's odd. And I was saying, if you can say that's odd, then something's wrong with you or something's wrong with me, So I really found that the response, even in my club, slowly started to turn. And they said, hey, man, this guy happens to have the best technique that I've seen, and this is what he's doing. We're kind of getting a chance to cheat and see what the pros actually do, And then I said, just come do it with me for 5 minutes. And the average club player can't go more than 3 minutes. You're a club player, you play 4 to 5 times a week, and you cannot do 3 minutes straight of table tennis cardio. That's when I said, I have to put this out just so that I can see what the response is back,
Yeah, and I'm sure it's going to be positive response. Now, that the idea of, not wanting people to look at you funny and people kind of judging you for doing something different is something that we covered in the Expert in a Year book that we wrote. We kind of had a load of tips and lessons that we'd learnt from the year stuck in the end of the book. And one of them was get over the fear of looking stupid, because, everyone's kind of a bit fearful of being embarrassed or having people thinking, oh, what are they doing? And doing something like this, which is actually really going to help you warm up, chances are if you do this at your club, people are going to be looking, pointing, thinking he looks like a weirdo. But that's just something that I think you really have to get over if you want to move forward and do the best thing for you.
Yeah, listen, Ben, I'm a black dude that played table tennis in America. It doesn't get more weird than that. Like we just don't have a lot of black people playing table tennis. So the level of comfort I've had with myself is already high, and it's just something like this that challenges that level of comfort because I've had the looks when I walk into a tournament. Oh, there's a black dude here that's playing tournaments. Okay, I've had that look. But when you have a specific look to where the person is staring and they're studying, okay, what is that? Like, I want to understand what that is. Like that's one of those things to where, the voice in your head has to be louder than the chatter outside your head. And that was something I learned from my mom. Listen, there's inside chatter about what you feel about yourself. And then there's outside chatter where you can see the look they're giving you and you can pretty much describe what they're thinking by the look. Your voice has to drown out their voice. And that's really been my biggest piece of advice, especially like people don't play table tennis. They're infected by it. I say it's a disease. Like the table tennis people are really passionate. How can you make me feel uncomfortable about something that I'm so passionate about that I would do something odd? It makes you look at me funny. No, I'm okay.
Yeah, I love that idea that it's like a disease because that's totally what it is. If you actually get the bug, then you're
just infected by it. You think about. I go to my table tennis friend's house. They got magazines and balls and extra rackets and then rubber sheets on the counter. And I said, "You my friend."
Great. Now I've got a list of a million things that I wanted to talk about from this video, sure. But I think a lot of them we're just going to have to leave it. But people just need to know that this video is awesome and there's so much good stuff in here. I've pretty got written down about 10 like amazing tips that I found in this video. What I might do is write a blog post about it as well and list some of that stuff. But I'm aware of time. I want to try and keep this under an hour. So sure. What I'd like to do now is move on to the top tip. So every week I ask the guest to share a top tip, something that they believe is particularly important for all of the listeners to understand and apply to their game. So Brian, can you hit us with your top tip?
Sure. Easily my most important top tip is value hand speed over power. When I first started, I had a really big loop, which means I needed a lot of distance. And once I started working with the Chinese, they started to say, you need to be in closer. And what that did is it limited my amount of power, but it dramatically increased how fast I could unload a shot. And once I started to penetrate the time reaction, I am affecting this person's ability to react to the ball because I'm hitting the ball not powerful, but I'm hitting the ball sooner. The byproduct of putting pressure on a person to play sooner is at some point they play slower and what they deliver you is a ball to kill. So I would say my best tip is learn how to play closer to the table and look at it as a razor's edge. Stay as close as you can stay with as much power that you can unload. Don't go all the way back to the comfort power zone and don't go so close to the table that you can't unload any power. So right on that razor's edge where power meets hand speed. If you stay there, you'll categorically give everybody some problems because you're quick and you're powerful.
Yeah, and you mentioned the Chinese. This is something that they've really changed in the game, isn't it? If you go back 10 to 15 years, you look at the European male players, they're all standing, 10 foot back from the table, taking their time, letting the ball drop, playing big power spin shots. And then the Chinese have now managed to, I mean, as you say, they've found that balance between they're really powerful, but at the same time they stay close, they're quick, they're sharp, like they're unloading like shots and combinations like in just lightning speed.
Yeah, I was in a really lucky position right at like 18. The top Chinese players started being imported to the US, and that was like a tectonic shift in how training was looked at. Okay, how do you look at a person's body type and have them get the most out of themselves? They didn't care about that. Everybody's going to stay close, and everybody's going to play as much power in that distance to where you're on the margin. If you go any closer, you're going to make errors. You have to be this close. You have to unload your power from there. And that helped me later on because I became a much more disciplined player at staying close, because when I went to Sweden, they had no problem just hitting a shot and backing up 8 or 10 feet. But in Chinese training, that's taboo. Like, you have to be forced into that position. And when I played in Europe, they just volunteered. They just went back for no reason. I said, I didn't even do anything. And the guys backed it up 3 steps. So the Chinese training is so much more disciplined with holding your ground, because when you hold your ground, you start to learn how to react and anticipate from a really close position, and that's the biggest advantage in the Chinese training versus the European training. Because I went to Europe after I had all my Chinese training, and they would say, this black dude plays Chinese.
Yeah.
They would say it all the time because he never backs up. He unloads power and he never backs off the table. And that was when I started to say, why does everybody back up so much? They back up too easy. It's not there's so much. They don't back up with enough resistance. I need to do something 3 or 4 times before you back up. And I would notice that it'd be 1 or 2. They're great from back there, but they just gave it up too early.
Yeah. And I mean, as much as I've gone on throwing praise at this video, hand speed is included in this as well, isn't it? Like you have a whole section looking at kind of, I can't remember what you call it, but talking about kind
of quick snapping core work, because a lot of times when you're snapping, you're turning your core at the same time. And that was one of the specific workouts that I stole from my Chinese coaches that we did after training. We just snapping really quick, learning how to turn the waist in unison with snapping the hand real fast. And every person I've ever done that with says, I can't finish this, so my arm is about to fall off.
Yeah, I mean, you're doing like 8 shots, like back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth in like, I don't know, like a second or something. Like it's really quick. You're talking about the importance of having the core really solid and like quick rotation so that you're using that. And it's just another thing that's included in this video that I think I just haven't seen in other places. Like, or I've seen it, but I've never seen people really promoting it to the wider audience. So yeah, it's brilliant that that's in there and that you're kind of giving more exposure to the whole idea of quickness and hand speed and those rapid shots.
Yeah, listen, I mean, this was the video I was the most apprehensive about, because it is the aspect of our sport that has the least amount of exposure so far. Who's really hit the nail on the head when it comes to table tennis based fitness? And I said, I hate to be the first person. If you're the first person, then it's incredible. But if you get it wrong, then you send it off into this wrong space to where people start to shun it. And I wanted to make sure that I had done it in a way that, okay, the person could walk away from the workout and says, I'm going to have to come back because I realize I need to learn how to finish this workout.
Yeah, I mean, you could have done this very wrong. Like, it could have turned into like a really cheesy fitness workout video. But you've done this so right, and it is an absolute beasting, but then at the same time, it's got all the technique, it's got tactical, it's got everything. I think, as I said before, this video is going to do really, really well. I'm absolutely convinced of it, and I'm going to be helping you promote this to people as much as possible, because I think this is something that's going to help so many players.
Well, thanks a lot. I mean, I really appreciate the praise, because like I created the video 4 months ago and I just sat on it. I said, okay, I'm going to hang out with this video. I'm going to keep watching it until I start to say, okay, I'm going to have to put it out, because I can't find anything wrong with it. That was the biggest issue that I had, is like, how can people, try to poke holes in it? Somebody may buy my training video and then they say this one is too advanced. And then buy a video to say this one's not advanced enough. Well, this is a table tennis based video. And if you don't have extreme fitness, you're not going to finish the video. But the goal is to learn how to finish the video. And what I wanted to do is, along with how much physical work you have to do, I wanted to put so much intelligence to the other aspects of training, breathing, how light you have to be on your feet. You notice when the camera view was sideways, my feet were never planted. My feet were always moving. So I wanted to allow people, this is all the dialogue you need to understand when you're doing this technique, so that you're just not getting a hard workout, but you're gaining more awareness, because I first did this workout, I didn't talk at all. Like when I started doing it, just training it, I didn't talk. I just did it, and all the dialogue was in my head. And I said, but when I train and actually make this a training video, I'm gonna do it in one take, and I'm gonna not skip a beat on every exercise. There's 1 or 2 bullet points you have to remember about this specific exercise, so that it helps you once you go back and training with the ball.
Yeah. Okay, so this video is now out. I mean, it's not out today as I'm speaking, but this podcast will be out in a week's time. And by then it will be live. You can buy it from your website, which is dynamictabletennis.com. Tell us, how much is it going to be, Brian? And how can people actually get it? Is it just a download, or is there a physical copy as well?
It's going to be a download, and it's going to be a physical copy. The price is $29.99. And this is one of 9. So literally, I didn't even say anything, but I have 3 more that's already finished. I just have to go back and edit them and put a little music there and put some graphics on screen. But I have another 3 already done. But I want to completely cover this series of how you can improve in table tennis using fitness. So this is the one where I wanted to catch everybody's attention. This is the one where you'll say, okay, if he has more of this, then I'm signing up, because if I can't finish this and he has 8 more, then I know that it's still a lot more I have to learn, That's
pretty much it. Is there anything else that you'd like to say, Brian, or how can people get in contact with you if they've got questions, social media accounts, things like that?
I'm Dynamic Table Tennis on Facebook. For all the people that purchase from me, you're more than welcome to send me a Facebook request. You're probably just going to see pictures of me riding my bike and hanging out with my son, because I don't really have that much of a exciting life on Facebook. And yeah, I would say stay tuned, because I have a table tennis app coming out. I have a whole complete 10 training video program about how to prepare and play tournaments. So I got so much more stuff down the pipeline. But this is kind of the thing that I've been sitting on the longest, hoping, that I could put it in the market at the right time when I really felt like, table tennis needed it.
Yeah, and table tennis needs this. This is brilliant. I just want to say thank you so much for coming on the show, Brian. Thank you for all the work you do producing these videos. And I really wish you the best of success with this, because I think this could really help so many people.
But thank you. And I want to thank you for being so diligent. You guys don't know that me and Ben have been playing this game for probably 6 or 7 months, because right now, I have everybody in my house in one room, so I can do this Skype interview. And it's been hard to get everybody. Like we might have made 6 or 7 times to do this interview, and we hadn't been able to do it because I just have not been available until I finally said, it's Thanksgiving weekend and I'm making everybody leave so I can do this interview, because I'm sick of telling Ben, hey, I can't do it. So I want to thank you for being so diligent, because all those other podcasts have been incredible. So I really love what you're doing, and keep it up.
Cheers, Brian. I'm glad we waited, actually, because it's meant that we've been able to talk a lot more about this one instead of talking about something else. So yeah. Thank you so much for coming on the show, and I will speak to you soon.
No problem. Take care, Ben.
Cheers, Brian. See you later.
Cheers.
A huge thank you goes out to Brian for joining me on this episode of the show. That was such a fantastic interview. Loads of great advice in there, and I'm sure you've all got loads and loads from that. So Thanks, Brian. It was an absolute pleasure talking to you. And yeah, Brian's DVD is now out. You can buy that as a digital download or as a physical DVD from his website, dynamictabletennis.com. And I recommend you all go and check that out and have a go at doing his crazily hard fitness DVD. And we'll look forward to seeing what else he's got coming out in that shadow training series. Creating a weekly podcast isn't free, there are costs involved, and in order to meet some of those costs, I've decided to get some sponsors on board. And the sponsor for this episode that I mentioned in the intro is TT Edge, and TT Edge is now run predominantly by Brett Clark, who was on episode 26 of the podcast. If you haven't listened to that yet, I recommend you go and check that out. But what TT Edge offer is a membership site that costs $20 a month. And if you sign up to that, you're going to have access to over 200 really high quality professional coaching videos, which are really going to help you improve your game, learn more about the sport. If you're the type of player that maybe doesn't live close to a good club, isn't able to afford to pay for one-to-one coaching, then this is a really, really great option for you. What they do above and beyond releasing the coaching videos, which for me is just an absolutely incredible offer, is Brett will actually work online with TT Edge members one-to-one in terms of giving them feedback, sending them emails. He's happy for you to send him videos for him to watch, kind of so he can analyze your technique or watch back matches and give you tips. Now, Brett is a former Australian national team player and national team coach. To have access to that kind of knowledge and experience for $20 a month, I think is an absolutely ridiculous offer. And I wouldn't be surprised if so many people sign up that he has to up the price or something in the future, because that's pretty much just too good to be true. So if you are the kind of person who is looking to improve your table tennis, you're very serious about improving and you want to actually take that step up to the next level, then I would highly recommend you go and check out TT Edge. Contact Brett as well. Send him an email, brett@ttedge.com. Ask him about what kind of things he can offer. See if it's going to work for you. I'm sure it will, and I'm super happy to have a company like TT Edge sponsoring the show because they're so awesome. If you've enjoyed this podcast, as always, I'd say please could you go and subscribe on iTunes, share the show with your friends on Facebook and Twitter, and if you could also spend a minute or so to leave us a review on iTunes as well, that would be awesome. My guest next week is Class 8 Team GB Paralympic table tennis player Billy Shilton. That's a really good interview, so I'll be looking forward to releasing that one to you. All that's left to say is thank you so much for spending the time to listen to the Expert Table Tennis podcast. It's a pleasure to produce this show for you. And yeah, if there's anything I can do to help you out, let me know. Drop me an email, ben@experttabletennis.com. I'm happy to chat, and I'll see you in a week's time.